Welcome back to Rockstock Channel. It is Monday, April 21st, and we're back with another installment in our Getting to Know You series with Jindalee Lithium. Jindalee is advancing the McDermitt Lithium Project in Oregon, which is adjacent to Lithium America's Thacker Pass project across the border in northwest Nevada. The Thacker Pass project reached a final investment decision earlier this month after receiving nearly $3 billion in debt and equity funding from the Department of Energy, General Motors, and Tier 1 private equity firm Orion Resource Partners. The United States continues to step up efforts to secure domestic sources of minerals tied to national security and industrial capacity. On March 20th, President Trump signed an executive order titled Immediate Measures to Increase American Mineral Production. The order is aimed at cutting red tape and pushing more U.S. mineral projects into production. Last week saw the implementation of one component of this order. Under the Fixing America Surface Transportation Act of 2015, FAST 41, 10 critical mineral projects were selected. Jindalee Lithium's U.S. subsidiary High-Tech Minerals was one of those 10. Rodney will dig into what this means for Jindalee with CEO Ian Rodger in a moment. For disclosure purposes, we should note that we are not strategic advisors to nor invested in Jindalee Lithium, and nothing you hear today should be considered investment advice. Please do your own research and read the disclaimer at the end of this video. Jindalee trades on the Australian Stock Exchange, ticker symbol JLL, and on the OTCQX, ticker symbol JNDAF. Current stock price is 25.5 cents, about the same as it was since our first two videos in September and November last year, though the stock has spiked earlier to 40 and 33 cents at various times last year in connection with the company announcing a pre-feasibility study and other news flow. Jindalee's current market cap is about 19 million Australian dollars or 12 million US dollars. Michael Bentley of Australian research and financial services platform MST Financial covers Jindalee and has a target price of $2.15 a share. If you'd like a copy of this note, you could find it at Jindalee's website, JindaleeLithium.com, or you could email us at rockstockchannel@rkequity.com, or tag Rodney or me on X at RodneyHooper13 or at Lithium Ion Bull. You could follow Jindalee on X at JindaleeL and can find the company and our guest today's CEO, Ian Rodger, on LinkedIn. And with that intro out of the way, welcome back, Ian Rodger.
Thanks, Rodney. Thanks for having me.
Ian, good to have you back on. If you can, please give us a recap on the size and location of the McDermitt deposit so our audience can get a bit of a refresher since November.
Yeah, no problem, Rodney. So, the McDermitt project, located on the border of Oregon and Nevada. Our claims straddle both states on federal land, but the deposit is 100% on the Oregon side. It's 21.5 million tons of lithium carbonate equivalent, so it's one of the largest of the US. For a period of time, it was the largest, but it's a sedimentary style lithium deposit. It's in the same geological feature as Howard sort of mentioned to Lithium Americas. They're down one end of a caldera, we're down the other, so similar in terms of style and size of mineralization. We completed our PFS in November last year, which sort of outlined a large-scale, long-life, low-cost source of battery-grade lithium carbonate. Initially, over a 63-year mine life, but that only uses sort of 15% of the resource base. And so, really high-quality PFS done with the help of Fluor and is really just a starting point of this project.
Okay, excellent. And the reason behind me asking that, get you to outline the project is to frame its significance for the U.S., being a U.S.-located asset, and to provide background to my next question, which is essentially around FAST 41. This initiative has earmarked only 10 critical mineral projects. Can you outline for us the significance of Jindalee being selected as one of those 10, and then what it means practically for the company?
Yeah, for sure, Rodney. Yeah, so we're one of 10 nationally listed as a Fast 41 transparency project, and I'll get to a little bit of what that means. But on the high level, I think from our perspective, just really highlights the strategic importance of the of the asset with regard to the US you know um, desire to onshore more of their mineral production. And so, it's the first tangible step. We've seen lots of executive orders, but this is, the rubber hitting the road. Projects designated under Fast 41 are listed on the federal permitting dashboard. And that's designed really to enhance visibility, but also promote interagency collaboration. And in a nutshell, we expect that to act to faster decision making and faster permitting timeframes, unlocking delays, etc. Um, and so that we think that's going to be the tangible benefit. We're on federal land, so we expect that sort of visibility to really be beneficial to the project, given the size and strategic nature of it. By comparison, covered projects receive additional benefits. We're not a covered project. And there's only one, that's South 32's Hermosa project, and they receive the benefit of legally enforceable permitting schedules, and that's the potential down the track, but separate to what was announced uh, uh, on Good Friday. So we think this is just the next step in our sort of strategy on US government engagement. We signed a cooperative research and development agreement with the DOE last year. We've had good traction with different agencies. We've got a grant funding application still afoot. So we think this is just the next step in building the profile, and really recognizes what we already knew around the strategic importance of this asset.
Okay, great. Yeah, definitely. I mean, given the enormous scale. So recently, you bolstered your treasury with the sell down of your dynamic state that was unbundled out. Does this mean that Jindalee now is a pure play lithium company?
Yeah. In one word, yes, Rodney. We made a decision sort of 2 years ago to spin out dynamic metals, and we retained about a 25% stake in that company. They've had success on some gold prospects in Western Australia, and we took the opportunity to liberate funding from that, and avoided issuing equity at sort of historically low prices. So we expect a key focus of this year is on the obviously the government funding, the partnerships, but also looking to raise our profile with North American investors. We see that as one of the disconnects for an Australian listed company with one of the bigger more strategic assets in the US. And so we've sort of obviously all in now on McDermitt as a sole focus US lithium company.
Okay, great. And you recently also appointed corporate advisors to engage with potential strategic partners. How's that process coming along?
Yep, we've appointed a group, two groups, one out of Asia and one in the Americas. We're really in the early engagement phase. So we've obviously had a lot of historical conversations with groups, and so we've had some inbounds, and the appointment of advisors was really to put some structure and build a competitive tension around that process. And so we expect that engagement to sort of pick up over the next couple of months. And I think the recent announcement clearly sort of, I think, augurs well for that in terms of providing in terms of providing confidence for any potential incoming group around around the level and profile of this project.
And moving forward, Ian, what's the plan schedule for a DFS? And are there any major adjustments expected to the PFF's metrics and flow sheet?
The timing of the DFS is really going to be subject to our partnering and funding discussions over the next sort of 3 to 6 months. But needless to say, the first part of it will be a large infill drill program and metallurgical test work program, and that's part of our exploration plan of operations, which we think's which is one of the benefits of the news today, that expected to help around the time frame for that. But in terms of the DFS, I mean, as we sit here today, we don't expect large scale changes to the flow sheet. We expect that there's a number of areas that we could materially improve on CapEx and OpEx. One is in particular area is beneficiation, but we don't expect any real wholesale changes to the flow sheet. Subject to obviously a fair, extensive metallurgical test work program. The key thing, the point, I guess, while I'm discussing the DFS is we really manage the PFS on a tight budget, so we didn't include a lot of the trade-off and optimization work. So the first bit of the DFS is sort of answering some of these questions around improvements to the flow sheet before doing the detailed engineering. So we expect to provide an update on that in parallel with funding conversations.
Okay, and you touched on it briefly there. The status of the EPO approval.
Yeah, we put out our environmental assessment for public comment earlier in April. And so we expect to achieve a record of decision around the middle of the year based on guidance to date. And so there'll be some state permits on the back of that, but we expect the exploration plan of operation to be approved sort of circa mid-year, and then that'll allow a lot more drilling on site, and allows the establishment of a water well and other areas to better understand the resource base, as well as generate the sample required for metallurgical test work. And now, we've got our existing notice level of approval. So, the question of when that drilling happens under the notice or the EPO is sort of subject to a couple of different things at the moment. But again, that's going to be considered alongside our sort of funding conversations.
So, I've got one last question, Ian. Is the status of the potential DoD grant?
Yep, that remains. What we updated it at the tail end of last year on the back of the PFS. The grant funding applications, went under review with the direction of the new Trump administration. We understand that they're getting through a backlog, and the best guidance we have is in any award decision is likely in the first half of this year. We don't know if that there's no real clear connection between, I guess, the update today, but clearly the prominence of the project. I think we think it'll all go well, but we'll wait and see how we get along with that grant application. But we remain pretty optimistic.
Okay, great.
Thanks for that, Ian. Just overall, when I think about that DoD and this permitting, and I guess you had some small money, I guess, last year on the R&D side. I mean, you've done a very good job navigating from afar, in Australia, the U.S. Regulatory authorities in a similar way that Ioneer and also Lithium Americas did. I mean, those projects that we've flagged before, the U.S. government has supported sediment projects more than any other in the United States, right? So, Department of Energy giving $2.3 billion to Lithium Americas, and Ioneer is $1 billion. And both of those companies have partnered with U.S. OEMs, Ford in the case of Ioneer, as well as I think Toyota, which is not American, but nevertheless, large, well-known Japanese company, and EcoPro and Lithium Americas, solely with GM, who took a project level interest. So I think those OEMs observed Lithium Americas and Ioneer's progress with the government. I mean, they worked definitely hand in hand, right? I don't think the OEMs would have had confidence, if there wasn't also the support from the U.S. government. So I guess just I'm making a comment here that you're obviously earlier stage, much lower market cap than those two companies, but the path that they followed is very much a path that you seem to be following. And not every sediment, project in America has garnered. I think a few of them have gotten some support from the U.S. government. But anyway, this you've navigated under both administrations now. I mean, it is quite. I thought it was notable when I saw the list of the 10 projects and Jindalee was on it. On Good Friday, I was just like, oh wow, that's that was a bit of a surprise of all the projects out there. So that's why we rang you and thought it would be a good time to, have this update.
Yep. No, no, I appreciate it, and sort of, yeah, share your observations there. Clearly, we're looking to, leverage, the approach of, our more progressed peers in Ioneer and Lithium Americas, and we think obviously the news out today is definitely going to help, particularly on, the confidence, I guess the implied endorsement, but, particularly in the perception of potential partners, I think will be really important, because ultimately, to get these big projects up requires, partners with private capital, OEMs, or, supply chain partners, but then also, government support. So this is just, I guess, another incremental step on that journey. We continue to sort of, build out our efforts in the US. So we're not sort of, sitting idling by in the bottom of the market. We're definitely trying to push harder into our engagement with the different levels of US government, and making sure this project, gets the attention it deserves.
Is there any, you're right across the border from Thacker Pass. I think it's an extension of the same deposits, the McDermitt caldera. But are there any differences? You're on state land, so Bureau of Land Management. When I say state land, federal,
Federal land, yeah.
overseers. But are there any Oregon specific dynamics vis-a-vis Nevada that are relevant?
The key permits are, the federal agencies, the exploration plan of operations we're going through now, but then there's a mine plan of operations. There is different, state level permits. It's a different state level agency, etc. But we expect that the key critical path will be the federal agencies, and we've had good support, from the Oregon side, both, politically and with the agencies there. So, we'll continue to work well with them, and obviously the helping the speed up the federal side will only help, the critical path of the project.
Okay, great. So appreciate your commentary. We're still in a big lithium bear market, and the Trump, for all the positivity on the critical mineral side, has injected quite a bit of uncertainty across, support for the electric vehicles, as well as tariffs and recession fears. So we remain optimistic that in a few months' time, a lot of this stuff will be resolved, and that I think a lot of lithium equities, are certainly pricing in worst case scenarios. I think you're at near all-time lows. There's immense option value, I think, in Jindalee's valuation at the current stage. You defined a large resource. You've advanced to PFS, and you've made great progress. They're making great progress with U.S. entities. So America and North America will need a lot of lithium, a lot more than the 40,000 tons that Thacker Pass is going to produce. So this is a long game, and appreciate the update, Ian. And we'll be watching for further progress in the coming quarters.
Yeah, no dramas. Thanks for having me, Howard and Rodney. And yeah, no, I think I agree with your sentiments there. Sort of, we're certainly of the view that we're chugging along the bottom, and as you noted on our sort of share price, it doesn't take much, action at these levels to sort of see, spikes off the bottom. But we really, think we offer some, that sort of asymmetrical upside at the moment, given where we are in the market, and we'll continue just to continue to plot away.
Great. And as a reminder, I mentioned you do have this analyst who covers your stock at MST Financial. For any of our viewers who would be interested to see how he arrives at a valuation that is, some 10 times higher than the current stock price, feel free to reach out to the company or go to the company's website or email me at rockstockchannel@rkequity.com. Thanks a lot, Ian.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.